the reason why I'm speaking with you is if I'm the voice of Los Angeles and everyone can't get to Austin Beutner, then when I have these conversations, I can't put on baby gloves, because there are
100%.
real situations that's going on in Los Angeles and there's real concerns.
Yep.
So when we think about people that we saw an exodus out of California, exodus out of LA, if you could do so. And now when you drive the streets, LA it's not recognizable.
No. More people left LA in the last 2 years than any other city in the country. That's truth.
And why?
Because they don't feel safe, because they can't afford to live here, because they're just tired of walking their kid to school and the street light don't work and the crosswalk's not painted and the sidewalk is broken. Well, we can fix those.
Today, we're going off air with Austin Beutner in my all-new leadership series. Why am I starting this series? People ask it, Big, why are you political? No, it's not that. I'm doing this because I love Los Angeles. I've been in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is my home. And just like you, I care about this city. We all see it, the homelessness, the cost of living, that feeling that LA's losing a little bit of its shine. These problems don't seem to be getting solved. So, who's got the answers? Who's going to bring our city back to its glory? That's what this series is all about. Talking to the people who want to make a difference and hearing what they would do to make Los Angeles a better place, because this city deserves it. Today's conversation is with Austin Beutner. You may know him from his Vision to Learn program, helping young Angelenos with vision problems, or from his time leading LAUSD through the pandemic, pivoting to online learning overnight. Now he's announced his run for mayor of Los Angeles in 2026 and see what big changes he thinks LA needs. This is Big Boy's off-air leadership series with Austin Beutner.
All righty, Big Boy, off air, Austin Beutner. Welcome, my brother.
Thanks for having me, Big.
It's a pleasure to see you once again, man. We've done some great work in the past.
We have. Time to keep doing some more work.
Yeah, and you know what? It's wild because the work that you do, some know, and then majority don't know. So the reason why I want to sit down with you, of course, there's a great past. I mean, you've been through Wall Street, you've been through, the LA Unified School District. We've seen you in great positions, and now you're about to take another position when it comes to mayor of Los Angeles. You officially said you want to get in.
Right.
Why would Austin Beutner want to get in to be the mayor of Los Angeles with so much going on in LA?
To help people.
Mhm.
And no different than the work we do here at Vision to Learn.
Right.
If we can make life better for kids and their families, if we can address a city that every day it's less affordable, every day less safe, every day a more difficult place to live. I'm getting in because we got to address those things. And I think if city government can be half as good as the people who live here, we're off to the races.
Yeah, because Los Angeles, the reason why I wanted to have these conversations is because LA is my home. Los Angeles is very dear to me. And I've been seeing Los Angeles now where I'm like, what's going on with home plate? What's happening? The spirit is still here. Of course, we see the Dodgers win. There's this beautiful feeling in the city. But when we look at Los Angeles, when we look at California, things have changed. And it's going to take a lot for us to get back to what I feel was that LA that we all know and love. Did you feel the same way, Austin?
Yeah, no, we was that city on the hill,
Mhm.
right? It was the place people wanted to come to. There was a vibe. Things were happening here. There were good paying jobs. People could afford to live. The culture scene, best in the world. We've fallen off that track. We got to get back on track and make it a place where people can afford to live. People want to be here. And people see all that we got to offer. Like you, it's a special place. Los Angeles, second to none in the world. One of the things I love about it, it's flat. And I don't mean the geography. I just mean that you and I could wind up working on the same thing, being at the same table. If we get everybody back at that same table, working to make this a better place to be for everybody, that's what we all win.
And it's not impossible. It's possible.
No, it's common sense is going to go a heck of a long way.
Mhm.
A heck of a long way. I was with some firefighters the other day at the station, just talking about what they do, and it's clear they got too much on their plate. There are 5 times as many calls as they used to have a generation ago. About the same number of people. That's tough. Now, that's a money people problem. Okay. A few more people, more money in the fire department. That's going to go a long way. But they told me about 20% of the time they spend are making calls to things that aren't emergencies. Someone with a leg cramp, somebody wants their fan turned off, someone who's hungry looking for food at a Burger King. Well, we can solve that problem. We don't have to hang up on people. But what we can do, someone who's hungry, we're going to connect you with a food bank. We don't need to send paramedics and firefighters, highly trained people. Somebody's got a leg cramp, we're going to make sure you get hydrated. We're going to tell you about water. We're going to tell you where there's an urgent care clinic near you. And that fan, maybe 1-800 Best Buy. We got a different way to approach that. What that's going to mean is the ambulance will get faster to your house when your loved one's having a heart attack. That's what it's all about. That's what we want firefighters and paramedics doing. Common sense, right? Well, we just change something. It doesn't cost anything. We're just going to do what we got to do a little bit better, make life better for people who live here.
Austin, when you're driving in LA, what do you see out of your windows?
Not the LA that I came for, not the LA I came to love. I see.
And how long you been in Los Angeles?
26 years.
26 years.
26 years, moved out from New York, grew up in Michigan. Kind of lived in the Midwest, did the East Coast thing. This is my home. Came out originally for a year, and here I am, 26 years later, raising my 4 kids here. I see homelessness under every bridge, on every corner. People experiencing homelessness. It's a humanitarian crisis. 5, 6, 7 people dying every night. The problem's not getting better. I see a city where things are broken, right? We could all go over that 6th Street bridge, the new bridge downtown. That's the beacon of Los Angeles. It ain't a beacon when the lights don't work. It's dark. Potholes, trees that haven't been trimmed, sidewalks. More people trip over sidewalks, and the city spends $100 million a year to settle the lawsuits. $5 million a year to fix the sidewalk in the first place. Why don't we just flip the order? Let's bank that $100 million, start fixing sidewalks. Nobody's going to get hurt. Those payments go away. We can clean the stuff up. But when I drive around, I'm seeing people who can't find good paying work. I'm hearing about the affordability crisis. I'm seeing a challenge of homelessness that has not been met. And I'm seeing a city that doesn't have that vibe. I went to the Dodger game, Phillies game, playoff game, the one game they lost. So my wife didn't go back. We didn't want to bring that bad juju back.
Thank God you didn't go to any more of the games.
Yeah, we stayed home.
We would have lost.
Fortunately, they won without us, right? We got in our seats. I said, Virginia, tonight's number is 0. She's like, yeah, we need a shutout. I go, no. We drove from our house on the west side through downtown to Chavez. 0 cranes. Nothing's going on. Nothing's being built. All you got is graffiti towers. That's the only recognizable landmark downtown. And cranes aren't the only sign of progress. But if we're building stuff, if we're renewing what is here, that means they're good paying jobs. It means people can go to work and they can take care of their families, and we're moving forward. 0 cranes, that's a wake up.
Why did you notice that?
I worked 15 years ago for a year as deputy mayor. I always look at that as that's a measure of our progress. Our job as the city at that time was to make it easy for people to build stuff here, to want to come here, to employ people here, to work alongside people who work in the building trades and work in hotels, to create more opportunity for them. And it's just something, since then, it's always stuck in my head. It's a measure of progress. Not the only one, but a very visible one, because who can miss a crane in the sky?
For those that don't know Austin, give us a background on Austin Beutner, because I've had a chance to work with you for Vision to Learn.
Right.
But speak to me about Evercore. Give our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah, I'll take a half click back. So my dad came to this country as an immigrant, worked in factories. My mom was a school teacher. I went to public schools my mom taught. And it's kind of terrifying as a little kid. You got your 3rd grade teacher, the principal, and your mom at the end of the hall. So you kind of got 2 principals plus your teacher. So I kept on the straight and narrow. Values in my household: go to school, get a job. Everything about that was good and reinforcing for me. In school, I washed dishes in a restaurant. I worked in a printing plant. I drove a delivery truck for a florist in high school, all of those to help make ends meet and to help save money for college. You drive a delivery truck for a florist. By the way, back in my young age, I was social media before there was one, because I would finish high school in the morning. I'd go to where the florist was and have to fill out the cards before you deliver the flowers. So it's like, from big to so-and-so, I'm really sorry, I won't do it again. And you go to so-and-so's house and you know who they are. It's like, you don't want to know that, but you know that, you know it all, right?
So it's always been kind of work.
It's work and good paying opportunities. I came out of school, I found a job in finance, Wall Street. I've never
Mhm.
been in a bank before. The only thing I've been in was a teacher's credit union with my mom. Uh, World was my oyster. I hit it big. Hard work got me pretty far. Started my own company, took it public on the New York Stock Exchange. Today has offices and clients around the world. Um, but about 15, 17 years ago, I had a bit of a setback. I was mountain biking in the morning. I get
Oh,
up in the
yeah.
morning and exercise. Had a bad crash. Got medevac to UCLA. They put me back together. I got some spare parts in my neck. They fixed the internal bleeding and all that kind of stuff. And I decided that the next chapter was going to be, for me, a chance to create that same opportunity for a good education, a good paying job that I had. That was what got me to this place. And if I could pay it forward, I was going to do that. So since then, I've been deputy mayor in Los Angeles for a minute, publisher of the LA Times, because I think we need a civic conscience. We need to tell those stories about what's happening and hold people in power accountable. Um, Superintendent of schools
Mhm.
during the pandemic. Really proud of the work we did. We stood up when nobody else did. We
Yeah,
fed
there was no
everybody.
blueprint to that.
There was
There
no
was
blueprint,
no
no blueprint.
manual. Like, oh my God, my
And
kids were in that.
so we said, okay, well, first principles here. People are going to be hungry. Their families are losing jobs right and left. So we stood up the largest food relief effort in our nation's history. We provided 140 million meals to children and adults, no questions asked. City didn't, county
Mhm.
didn't. There's nothing in the school rule book that says that's what you do,
Right.
but it was the right thing. We got everybody together to do it. And I think that applies to a mayor's job. You got to paint outside the lines, see the problem, solve the problem. Sometimes you got to throw the rule book out. So I did that. I authored something called Proposition 28, a
Mhm.
state ballot initiative to put arts and music back in schools. And thanks for your
Yeah.
support for that.
Yes, sir.
About $1 billion a year forever, no new taxes to hire more arts teachers. And how cool is that? Art, we know, is that art and music are the glue that
Yeah.
hold together
I know
kids.
growing up that, we've always had an instrument in public school, LA Unified.
We did. We didn't.
Mhm.
By the time I became
Right.
superintendent, I'd ask schools when I'd visit, I'd remind teachers and principals, I'm not the head teacher, head principal. My job is to get you what you need. On the way out, I'd always ask, what else can I do for you? And sometimes it might be we got a leaky roof, we need new math textbooks, but always in the top three was arts and music. So when I stepped down, I said, well, gosh, we can do something about it. And it stuck with me because I was a music kid,
Mhm.
moving a bunch with my mom and dad as they took different jobs. I went to fifth grade, my fifth different elementary school,
Mhm.
middle of the school year. Uh, Lunch that day was my biggest concern, not reading and math, but who was I going to lunch with? I didn't know a soul. Teacher come up to me and said, "We got music class. You want to play cello?" Like, I didn't know what a cello was, but you got lunch? I'm in.
Right.
Cello became bass became guitar, gave me a sense of agency. I could play in front of thousands of people before I could speak in front of tens of people. But to this day, it was the group, right? I found a group. And that's what arts and music can be in schools. I worked to pass Prop 28. It's now there for every kid, all 6 million kids in public schools across the state of California. I started this organization called Vision to Learn because someone told me about a problem, which is about 1 in 4 kids need glasses, and in low income communities, they don't have them. Makes a big difference. You have glasses, you don't have glasses. A kid who needs them and doesn't have them is first misdiagnosed as a behavior problem in kindergarten because they can't sit still. Over to fourth grade, they're called a slow learner and something maybe less polite by their peers. In eighth, ninth, 10th grade, they're looking for a reward on the street because it's not happening for them in school. We bring the solution to the kids. So we get these vans all across the country. We're the largest provider of eye care to kids at schools in the country. No questions asked. You get 1,000 kids, we'll screen them all, exams for those who need them, glasses all free of charge to the kid and their family. That's the kind of stuff I've been doing. And you paint outside the lines, you see a problem, solve a problem, let's get on and do it.
Why? But why? Because there's some things it feel like they're so heavy that some people don't want to pick it up. Mayor of Los Angeles, vision to learn, anything, the things that you're speaking on, those are that's very heavy. And when we think about the mayor of Los Angeles,
Yep.
it's so easy for people to point and make you the enemy and everything is wrong. Why would you want to have that position?
If we can make it better,
Right.
that's what it's all about, right? We become too tribal. Everybody, they're fearful.
Mhm.
They're being hurt. They're struggling to get by. Your tribe gets smaller and smaller. We need to come back. We need to think about that common good. Think about how good it feels to help your friend, your neighbor, someone down the street who doesn't have what you have. That's a reward for me. Uh, if it were all going good, I'd do the same thing I
Right.
did before. I would have supported Karen Bass, encouraged her to run for reelection. I did last time. It's not going good. LA's adrift. We need something different. We need a different kind of leadership. That's me. I kind of draw into that problem. I get great satisfaction personally out of solving the problem, bringing people together to solve the problem. It ain't gonna be perfect. We can't fix everything.
Right.
Can we bend the shape of the curve? I think we can make it better.
When you were superintendent for LAUSD, that was the craziest times. Like we were saying, there was no manual, there was no rule book, no study book, nothing that you can go back to. It was like we got hit with a pandemic
Yep.
and we had to figure out how to keep kids fed, how to keep them educated, how to get them, on course when it came to, even when it came to the tablets.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
did
but
you
you got to
ever
step
feel
up. No, but it's one of those things. You go, okay, there's a need, there's a problem. We're going to find a way.
right?
No
And it was like
excuses.
immediate. We had to find a way.
We had to find food. School classrooms are closed on Friday. On Monday, we were serving 500,000 meals a day because you had to, right? I went over the weekend actually before just to test it, and they wanted to serve all that stuff, the school rule stuff. It looks like an MRE. It's been on the shelf for about 4 years. And let's get real food. We're going to send kids home with sandwiches and fruit and vegetables. And at night, we're going to feed them turkeys over Thanksgiving and all those things because that's what should be done. We knew we had to keep kids connected to keep learning, connect them first. So we sent 500,000 kids home. We said, okay, well, if you don't have a computer, it can't be connected. And you know what? You need internet too, because about a third of the families that we served didn't have internet at home. We got it for them. I picked up a phone. I called all the big internet providers and said, you got 3 days, give me your best price. We went the low price. We worked out a deal. If they got a better price anywhere else, we got that better price. We actually got a rebate when they used our deal in 40 other states because we were there fast. We bought every computer that Apple had in this country, not just in California. I went to the CEO and said, you're closing stores in Chicago and Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll take those too. We went to Fender. They gave us 15,000 guitars to provide to kids to stay connected and be with each other. We went to Illumination, the folks who created Despicable Me, and they created a class about storytelling and animation. James Cameron worked with us from New Zealand, where he was filming one of the Avatar things, created a class on the voyage of the Titanic. So we didn't just get you a computer,
Right.
we kept you connected and engaged. And we told families what we thought they needed to know. We kept them safe. We set up the biggest COVID testing operation in schools in the country. We backed a biotech startup lab to do it. So we bought them $10 when everyone was paying $100, and it worked.
What's right with LAUSD now?
I think they've lost the scent, which is it's about what happens at the school. One of the things I did, which I feel really, really good about, something called Primary Promise. I took the job originally. My mom was my muse. She was an elementary school reading teacher. And she'd always say, if you get that kid reading, the world's their oyster. If they can't, the world's going to leave them behind. So I go into elementary school classrooms and I kept hearing about, well, half the kids, a third of the kids are at grade level. Going, man, we're leaving a lot of kids behind. So if you go in an elementary school classroom, you'll see one teacher in a low income community. If we went to a high income community or a private school, you see two.
Yeah.
Right. And what they're doing is the kids who are grade level, they're working with the one teacher. The kids who aren't are getting
Right.
extra help. Makes sense, right? If you just go to a classroom. So what do? I used my emergency authority during the pandemic to hire 300 reading specialists, put them in class alongside the classroom teacher. And guess what? We saw dramatic gains in early literacy, early numeracy, and you can do it. But you got to figure out what's the problem you're trying to solve. And maybe you got to do it a little bit differently than you did it before. And I think that's the lasting legacy of what I try to do, which is talk to the people doing the work. Talk to those firefighters who will tell you a bunch of their calls are not medical emergencies. Talk to the first grade, third grade teacher who will say, I'm trying my best. But if I get kids who are grade level, I can work with them. The kids who aren't in first grade, they're just watching you. It's like the adults in the Peanuts cartoon or something. It's just words. They don't quite understand what you're trying to do. Let's get them help right there. And I think the same thing applies to so much what the city does. The answer is not at a podium in City Hall. The answer's in the field. The answer's in the fire station. The answer's in the community. The answer's in the homeless encampment. Listen carefully, and we're going to find the solution.
What do you tell the young person that doesn't believe in voting?
This is about you. You and I, our ship is sailing.
Mhm.
Hopefully we've got a
Well,
few
yours more than mine.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Austin, this guy.
Hopefully, got a little more time.
Right,
More
yeah.
time on this. But this is about a better future, a
Mhm.
better future for all of us, in particular young people. So, what kind of Los Angeles do you want to have? Be part of it. Join with us. You want to see more housing? Join with me. You want to make sure people who are hungry get fed? Join with me. You want to make sure kids who need glasses? Join with me. You want to make sure that we help people who are experiencing homelessness and at the same time make our neighborhood safe? Join with me. They need to be part of that because ultimately it's their community. And we got to pass it on in better shape than we got it.
What do you feel about crime in Los Angeles?
10-year lows in the rate at which crimes are being solved.
Oh, yeah.
So barely 1 in 20 burglaries get solved. Barely 1 in 3 violent crimes get solved. That's why people don't feel safe. I was with a group of bus drivers from the MTA the other day. So I know school bus drivers because I work with them together in schools. Hadn't worked as closely with metro drivers. So I asked, what's on your mind? And I expected to hear about wage and benefit, and I did. They need to be paid fairly. They got families to support too. But their number one concern wasn't that. It was safety. You drive a bus, it's eyes forward, right? Because traffic and Los Angeles traffic is kind of hectic. You're keeping people safe by keeping your eyes on the road. Someone as elegantly dressed as you get on the bus, and you don't know what they're going to do. They don't feel safe, and the passengers don't feel safe. So if people can't go back and forth to work and feel safe on a bus, if the people who drive the bus don't feel safe, that's a problem.
What do we do with this crime in LA? Because this is the first time, and I've had this conversation with others. This is the first time that I thought, do I move my family out of Los Angeles? Do I move my family out of California? And I have so much here. And the reason why I'm speaking with you is if I'm the voice of Los Angeles and everyone can't get to Austin Beutner, then when I have these conversations, I can't put on baby gloves,
Yep.
because
Oh,
there are
100%.
real situations that's going on in Los Angeles and there's real concerns.
Yep.
So when we think about people that we saw an exodus out of California, exodus out of LA, if you could do so. And now when you drive the streets, LA doesn't look, it's not recognizable.
No. More people left LA in the last 2 years than any other city in the country.
Mhm.
That's true.
And why?
Because they don't feel safe, because
Mhm.
they can't afford to live
Right.
here, because they're just tired of walking their kid to school and the street light don't work and the crosswalk's not painted and the sidewalk is broken.
Mhm.
Well, we can fix those. We can fix those, and we will fix those, and we'll turn the place around. We'll get Los Angeles back on track. But people got to believe. People got to be part of this. I'm just one person. I'm selected mayor, which I hope to be. Every one of the people who have a complaint, come, let's do the work. You're going to help do the work. We have so much talent here. People have solutions. We just have to empower them, make sure they got the tools they need, and we're going to help solve the problem.
I'm going to take you through some of these.
Yeah.
Affordability.
Right.
We've seen Los Angeles, surrounding areas where we're priced out. I just recently had to move a family member out. And every 30 days, what this rent here in Los Angeles is effing ridiculous. Everywhere you go, things are through the roof. Affordability. How do we make Los Angeles affordable for Angelinos?
Sure.
Is that possible?
100%. 3 things we got to do. The first is probably the easiest piece. There are things the city provides directly: trash, sewer, water, power. Under Mayor Bass, those have gone up for every household $1,223 a year. $1,223 out of your pocket.
Yeah, we just had a sanitation increase, correct?
50%.
Mhm.
Geez, yeah, whose wage is going up 50%? Nobody's. That's a function of the choices that are made. They buy stuff, they don't tell you what they bought, and they give you the bill. So let's reverse that. Let's actually tell you this choice. Okay, we could do it this way, and it's a 1% increase. We could do it this way, it's a 22%, and this way it's a 32%. I think I know what people will choose. Maybe the 1%. That's what we got to start doing. So we got to be transparent about stuff like that. And unfortunately, $1,223 That's real. Everybody's paying that. Okay, that's Mayor Bass. The second is the biggest component of your cost of living is housing.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, the fewest number of new apartments were built in Los Angeles in forever. Okay? Supply and demand. If we're not building housing
Right.
for more people, it's going to cost too much. So we've got to change that. We've got to bring people who invest. They're going to have to make some money, by the way. If they're putting up money to build a building, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their own heart. So we got to bring investors back. We have to make it possible to build. We got to make the rules. We have a what I'll call an expediter system. Everything is a problem, and therefore you got to hire a lawyer and do this, and it takes more time. The foundation of the rules for building stuff in Los Angeles are what are called community plans. There are 34 plans for communities that make up all of Los Angeles. Those are supposed to be the rules. If you got the rules, traffic goes down the highway pretty fast. If you don't, it looks like an intersection in Italy where everybody's just cutting each other off and nothing happens. Well, that's the kind we got right now. Let's clean up the rules. Let's get our community plans updated because only 2 of them have been updated in the last decade, none under Mayor Bass. 23 or 22 of the rest were from last century. So that's like that Italian intersection. So more housing, easier to build housing. Okay. And then the last piece
Because
is
there is a lot of red tape when it comes to
oh, but it's
trying to do it.
but the red tape exists because we don't have rules.
Mhm.
Like the Italian intersection is red tape. It's like you go first, you could write more and more and more rules. Okay. Do you think you could ever make sense of that intersection in Rome? No, I don't think so. It's got to be you're in this lane, you're in this lane. As long as you're in this lane, you're obeying traffic, you just keep going. There's no red tape. You just go. Okay. That's housing. Biggest component of everybody's bill. We need more of it. We need to lower the cost of housing by building more of it, a heck of a lot more. And that means density. That means clear rules and where density can exist. It doesn't mean your neighborhood, not mine. It means everybody's neighborhood. Okay.
But we've heard that. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And once you get used to paying something and they know you will, I've never seen anything, Austin, where something has come down. When we were going through gas, I told the neighborhood, I said, bro, I said, we're not going to see in California, we're not going to see $2.50. We're not going to see $3. Whatever that average is that you see across the country, that's not here. When they know you'll pay $4.55, $6 a gallon, and they know that they jumped you up to that. Same with when the economy, same when you go to the store, things don't come down. So it's hard for me to believe that.
Well, here's the third piece. Okay. We can stop it from going up. We got a shot. Okay. So no more utility increases, all that stuff, the $1,223, we got to put a lid on that. Okay. If we can keep the cost of apartments from going up, meaning we build more,
Right.
okay, more supply. The last piece is we need more good paying jobs. We're not building stuff, no more construction jobs. We lost 30 some odd thousand jobs in the entertainment industry under Mayor Bass. Those are good paying jobs. You could afford to live here with that kind of a job. You lose that job, you can't afford to live here anymore. So all 3 got to work. More good paying jobs, more housing to at least put a lid on the increases in price in housing, and no more increases in sewage and trash and electricity and power because people can't afford to pay that.
How much is a mayor handcuffed?
I don't buy that.
Mm.
You know, people say it's a weak mayor system. I go, we've had weak mayors. Go back to what I did in schools. Okay.
Right.
The law said schools don't feed people. We actually had 3 go rounds with the Trump administration during this. The first time he went on national TV and said I should be fired. People say, "Oh, go on CNN. You call them out." I go, "No, we're gonna keep feeding people.
Right.
That's
Keep
our
the
job.
focus.
All right, keep the focus." Then the Secretary of Agriculture calls and says, "You know, you're violating the law. Children, adults, documented, undocumented, you're not taking IDs. You know, how do you know who you're giving meals to?" I go, "They're hungry. That's why they're here. They didn't come by this school because they want a fancy meal. They're hungry." He goes, "Well, you could be arrested." I go, "Okay, well, fine. Just give me 30 minutes notice." And I think he thought I was going to pack up my bags. So he stays in line and goes, 30 minutes now? I go, no. Whenever you're going to arrest me, give me 30 minutes because I am going to call CNN. I'm going to call my wife and my kids. And this is a righteous fight. He went away. We had one final round. We were the biggest buyer of that farm to table. Remember when all the bacon wasn't being sold in stores?
Mhm.
We were buying it and giving it to families directly. The White House sent us a note and said, you're supposed to put in a thank you letter from the president. I go, I can't do that. There's something called the Hatch Act, by the way. That's unlawful, so I'm not going to do that. But we fed people. So I think the mayor leads, sets a direction, brings people together to start solving problems, and creates an narrative about where we're going. If a mayor does that, we're going to be fine. Um, I don't think that the uh, structure of government is the problem. It's people who are in government. And by the way, it's bringing people who aren't in government to help.
It's hard to believe now too, Austin. And I'm not just saying that for me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about I speak for many. It's hard to believe because we've had these conversations where it's this hope and this next person is going to see us through. And it seemed like, more often
Yeah.
we feel like, damn, we've been bamboozled.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
we
exactly
have.
what we thought.
We
And you
have.
hear people that say, oh, I want the POC vote, I want the people of color vote, I want this vote, I want that vote. And then we endorse, and we're the last ones. If anything comes anyone's way, we're the last one, or we don't get anything at all.
Well,
So it's hard
oh no,
for
people
people to
got to
believe.
believe. They got to muster up the courage to say, okay, you know what? I believe in this place, and therefore I got to believe in a solution. I got a body of work, 17 years in public life.
Mhm.
Take a look. We got stuff done that nobody else
I've
was getting
seen
done.
that.
And that's what we're going to get done in the city. But people got to believe that. They got to realize that um, the other way, you're back to your tribe. You're back to just keeping your family safe, and
Mhm.
that leads you to Texas. You want to move to Texas? I don't want to move to Dallas. I want to be here. I think this is the best city I know in the world. It's the most diverse, multicultural city where America comes to see its future. That's our strength. Let's build on that. But people got to believe we can solve these problems a little bit at a time. I don't want to mislead anybody who's listening or watching. Overnight, it ain't going to get better, but give me 4 years, it's going to get a lot better. And 8 years, it's going to be a hell of a lot better.
All right. Let me take you here. Homelessness has become such a problem
Yep.
in Los Angeles. For whatever reasons, we see way more on the streets of Los Angeles. What do we do with the homeless situation that happens here?
First, we got the eye test. It's getting worse, not better. Anybody who tells you it's getting better, maybe maybe need to get them some glasses, some vision.
Mhm.
They need to see what you and I see and what everybody sees. Rand came out with a report which says, you know what, you're not counting everybody. It's actually worse, not better.
Mhm.
That fire station I was at, they got data which shows every year in the past 5 years, including under Mayor Bass, more and more of their time is being spent to service the needs of people experiencing homelessness. That's truth. That's data. That's information. If they're making more calls to people experiencing homelessness, there are more people. We've spent billions. There's a federal judge who has admonished Mayor Bass, President of City Council, and city leadership by saying, you spent billions. We can't track where the money's going.
Yeah.
Billions. Okay. I give you a couple examples. They spent $20 million on a 32 unit hotel. Sounds like a high price. Worst part is 3 years, no one spent a night. I can track that money. That's wasted money. Maybe you need to buy it, maybe you didn't need to buy it, but if nobody spent a night there, you're not solving the problem. So we start with the money. Let's figure out how much the city is spending. Mayor Bass is fighting the attempts of the elected city controller to audit all those books and records. It should all be made transparent. Okay, where'd the billions go? Are we getting anything for it? If it's working, more of that,
Mhm.
less, cut it off. I think we've had a misguided approach, which is permanent supportive housing. Housing first is the answer. Well, if someone's got a substance problem, someone's got a psychiatric problem, they need help. Putting them in a $850,000 apartment isn't going to solve their substance problem or their need for mental health. So let's think about shelter. Let's think about services. And that model's working in San Antonio. That model's beginning to work in San Francisco. But we need to flip it, take a different approach. Again, we're to bend the shape of the curve. Not going to be better overnight. And at the same time, we need to protect the integrity and safety in neighborhoods. Superintendent, I rang the bell so many times. Kids can't walk to school past the homeless encampment. That's not safe. Okay, let's move the people. Let's bring them to shelter. Let's bring them to service. We can't say stay there until we're going to build an apartment in 5 years. That's not an answer. It's not an answer for the person on the street. It's not an answer for the family walking their kid to school every morning. So we've got to start to bend that shape of the curve. But we got to start with a kind of grounding in fact, which is we're not making progress.
And there's different levels when it comes to homelessness as well. Like we were homeless as a family. And with us, you get behind on rent, it becomes this slippery slope.
Yep.
So there's families out there, of course, there's mental situations that's going on. So there's different levels of homelessness. And when you look at what's going on, it seems like it's just this broad stroke of nothing happening.
But you got, you got to start by remembering every one of them is a person.
Mm-hmm.
I had
Oh, yeah.
lunch the other day with a guy who manages a grocery store, lives in South LA, manages a grocery store in Pasadena. And there's a little spark of inspiration in that conversation because he was telling me what he does now at the store is they separate their recyclable stuff out of the trash because homeless people are coming by and grabbing the cans and bottles, trying to support themselves. So he sat down with them and said, listen, here's what we'll do. I'm going to put them over here. You can have them. I want you to be able to take care of yourself with this money by turning in these bottles and cans, whatever, but stay out of the other trash. So fine. Now, as I said to him, the solution is actually going to start with you because they trust you. You now have a relationship. So when that person comes looking for the cans and bottles, can we talk with that person and see if there's a way to encourage them to get help for their substance problem, get help for their psychosis? And then we also got to recognize fentanyl plays a really big role in all this. And the metabolic impact of fentanyl and addiction to fentanyl is different than some of the other stuff in the past, right? Heroin, awful. You ramp up, you ramp down. But there's a period in the ramp down where you might be susceptible to treatment because you're still a little buzzed, but there's some rational thought going on. Fentanyl is like an off and on. Ramps up like this, ramps down. So they're looking for that next high. And so the ability to actually provide help to somebody with something as toxic as fentanyl, you have to be there in the moment.
Right.
So it requires a different level of sophistication and care. You have to be forward deployed with all your people. That person on fentanyl is not going to be calling the 1-800 number and saying, okay, you got me, I want to come on in. But maybe the guy in the back of the grocery store with the cans is that connection. So we got to listen. I don't know that we have all those answers. We got plenty of money. We have to have the will to make sure we don't have encampments and people can feel safe in their own neighborhoods. And at the same time, we got to make sure the people on the street get
Yeah, it's
help.
been a takeover.
Yep.
Crime.
Let's think of different types of crime.
Okay.
Okay. Murder rate, kind of flat, right? That's a good thing. A meaningful portion of murders are people crime on crime murder. Let's be careful that isn't what we think is what people feel less safe in their own communities. We see the high profile smash and grab.
Yeah.
Right? Who feels safe when that can happen in your neighborhood? We see burglaries in every neighborhood across Los Angeles.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, some of these new tools and technologies, the cell phones and the social media and all that kind of stuff and the WhatsApp, they're enablers for street crime because you can get your crew together in a hurry, be at this place, you can scout it with a drone and all those things. So we need to have the right set of tactics. We need to have law enforcement properly deployed to be able to be on it and cut it off at the source. But if we are of this view that we don't need more public safety, I don't know how we make it safe without that. We have to have responsible public safety. So we're not going back to Daryl Gates and all that craziness. But it's kind of clear to me if we have fewer firefighters in the fire department in relation to the number of calls, it's going to take longer to get to that fire. If we have fewer sworn officers than we've had in a long, long time in Los Angeles, it's kind of hard for them to be forward deployed to say, okay, when that gang is working on a smash and grab, well, by the time you get there, they're gone. And if they know they're not going to get caught, they're going to do it again and again until they get caught.
And we've seen the catch and release. We've seen the smash and grabs. We've seen the home invasions, blatant robberies just on the street now where you don't feel safe.
I'm privileged. I live in a very nice neighborhood. Neighbors on both sides of me have been robbed twice. Shouldn't be happening. Shouldn't be happening in any neighborhood in Los Angeles. And you can't say to people, you're safe if they don't feel safe. You can't say to people you're safe if crimes don't get solved because they know whoever committed one crime was going to do it again. But it's going to take an investment in public safety, and we have to acknowledge that's going to be part of the solution.
Downtown Los Angeles. At one point, downtown it was like Night of the Living Baseheads. It used to look crazy. I would travel to other places and they'd say, oh, we're going to go downtown and eat. And our downtown was not happening. You didn't eat there, you didn't live there. And then we started to see, the Staples Center come in and all these great restaurants coming in. We got a Whole Foods. And it feels like downtown Los Angeles is in a position where, damn, we're living there, we're shopping there. But now it's been this turn
So
that,
it's turned and gone off a cliff. When I
yes,
was superintendent, we were talking about opening elementary schools
in
downtown,
downtown Los
which
Angeles.
means families with kids were moving there.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Now they're closing them because 2/3 of the office buildings are empty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They may have a renter still paying, but they're going to cancel their lease. But physical occupancy is about 2/3. 2/3. When you go downtown, there are no cranes being built. The last big building I was involved in, the Intercontinental Hotel, now you got graffiti towers.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you don't have people in the buildings, the restaurants, they'll struggle. They're going to go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
You have streets that are not safe. I know people who work in an office building, they have to get escorted to the garage in the same building because there are people in the garage, either stealing the catalytic converters or
Right.
sleeping under the cars. We got to break that cycle. We got to bring the buzz back, but we also got to bring the jobs back because unless there are people working in those buildings, you don't have the critical mass of activity. You don't have the tax base. We haven't started to think about what that means for taxes, but a building that's 2/3 empty gets reassessed.
Mm-hmm.
They will pay less taxes. Less taxes mean less revenue to pay firefighters and police and school teachers and bus drivers and everything else we need to keep the city functioning.
Hollywood. Now, with Hollywood, and when I say Hollywood, I'm thinking about our entertainment industry as well.
Yep.
Hollywood was the movies were made here, the TV shows were made here. When you would go, even now, I'll go to a lot, and it looked like a ghost town at some of these lots right now. And we let that get out of California. We let it get out of Los Angeles. How do we bring Hollywood and entertainment back to Los Angeles?
We got to make it possible for
Mm-hmm.
people to employ people here. We got to look at some of the work rules. We got to look at all the tax structures. There's a state incentive. Why not a city incentive? New York has a state incentive and a city incentive. We don't have one in Los Angeles. We can make it more economic. We got to figure out what their needs are in terms of talent and people and the next generation of talent and people. As superintendent, I work with George Clooney, Eva Longoria, Don Cheadle, Mindy Kaling, that whole crew. We opened up a high school to bring people into the trades. I'm not talking about in front of the camera like you. I'm talking
Right.
about the sound engineer, I'm talking about the lighting person, I'm talking about the makeup artist, and so on. So we need to start investing in the next generation. But fundamentally, it comes down to it's too expensive and too hard to do that work here. We got to change that. And I think the people who are in that industry, they've got a bunch of good ideas. All of them are not going to be possible, but some of them are. And we need to lean into it because this is our patrimony, right? If you think of Los Angeles or matrimony, either way, whatever, mom's, dad's. 100 years ago, Los Angeles was Houston. Our biggest industry was oil.
Mm.
Okay, we come out of World War II and the Valley and all the vets returning home. The 80s, Reagan era defense buildup and all the space work that was being done in the Valley. What are the jobs of the future in Los Angeles? Well, the through line has been throughout Hollywood, the beautiful natural light, the creative community that's here. We launched Prop 28. It's going to require about 15,000 new arts teachers to be hired by schools around the country. That's a challenge. It's a lift. It's more than to be hired in the rest of the country in the next 3 or 4 years. But this isn't Montana. The creative community here is amazing. We have to make sure they can find good paying work. And it's on us. That's where, again, a mayor has to paint outside the lines because some of it's city, some of it's county, some of it's state, some of you might be federal. But we got everybody focused on it. We got everyone rowing in that same direction. We're going to make a difference, and it's going to be easier for you or anyone else in the entertainment industry to start employing more people in Los Angeles.
Are we ready for the Olympics?
No.
In 2020? Oh, shit. So,
well, but let me break it in 3 parts.
right, please.
So I got together with Casey Wasserman the other day, who heads the thing, and they're doing a great job. I said, Casey, I got 3 things on my mind. First is, let's make it clear that you got to raise $1 more than whatever it's going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
You control what it's going to cost. That's the way it's written. That's your budget. So you spend $7 billion, you better raise $7 billion in $1. You spend 10, it better be $10 billion in $1 because the city's broke. We don't got any money to help pay for your cost overruns. He's like, I got it. I'm on it. Good. We got that. The second is think about what you see on your TV. So NBC, they can do this, right? So if it's basketball, you see the court and some stands, it's going to be great. You go to the Coliseum, it's a little bigger. a bigger field. You got track and field. That's really cool. You go to the bicycle race. Well, they're going to come through the hills and all the way down. We got to make sure the roads are paved. There aren't any potholes. The trash is picked up. So, like you do for the Tour de France, you see this beautiful infomercial for Paris and France. We got to make sure that part. Okay, that's city infrastructure. Transit's got to work. Infrastructure's got to work. Streets got to be clean. Third part, hardest. The Olympics, the world comes to see. So they'll see what's on the TV, and they'll leave and tell a story of Los Angeles. Are we a city of the future or a city of the past? Are we a city where everywhere they went, homeless encampments, graffiti
Right.
towers, the vibe, restaurants closed? Or are we a city where they say, wow, look at the arts and culture here. Restaurants are happening. It's a place I want to go back to. It's a place I think I could move my business to or start a business in Los Angeles. That's what the legacy of the Olympics is going to be. It's either going to be, 84 was our high watermark and wasn't quite that, because the show is going to be fine.
Right.
That's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
the production, everything's going to
That's going to be really super. Okay. But what's the story of Los Angeles? And we got 2 years, June 2026, we elect a new mayor. We got 2 years to get our act together so that when people come and visit us, they go home and say, this is a city of the future. I want to be part of Los Angeles.
Are
Just
we
like they did in
behind?
1984. We're behind. We're behind. I'm not so worried about the infrastructure. Hopefully we're going to get there. Okay. I'm not worried about Casey Wasserman and the great team they have in place. What I'm worried about is if we're not creating a pathway for more good paying jobs, if we're not addressing the affordability crisis, if we're not addressing the fact that people don't feel safe or the broken infrastructure, right? We want everybody to come here and see the lights out on the 6th Street Bridge. That story writes itself.
Right.
I want people to come and see this beautiful monument downtown that we built. That is the beacon of a new Los Angeles. Well, we got to get on that.
Right. And then just what downtown looks like. There's certain areas that we look a mess, bro. And so I'm wondering by the Olympics, are we ready?
Well, we
And
got 2 years to get ready.
right.
Right.
But
And
but that's 2 years that you gotta we gotta run.
we got to run hard, and we need leadership who understands what running hard looks like. It's not waving some flags.
Right.
Okay. It's not press conferences in City Hall. It's doing the work. And it's making sure the people who fix the potholes got everything they need. Half the trucks that fix potholes in the city are parked in the garage. They're not fixing potholes. We need to make sure they're fully staffed, so we're fixing our streets. We got to make sure that the budget cuts to sanitation and everything else don't occur so that we can get our streets cleaned up. We got to make sure that we're doing something about the challenge of homelessness on the street. All those things, it's work. It's not a mayoral directive. It's not a press conference. It's work.
Right.
But it starts in the field, and it starts with a mayor who will listen to the people do the work and say, okay, we're going to have this bike race. It's 200 miles of road. You let me know what you got to do in the next 2 years. I'll make sure you got the people. I'll make sure you got the asphalt. You tell me what you're going to do. You work with all those experts, because I want people to see a beautiful Los Angeles all along the course of that bike race. But you got to start now.
What was your relationship, if any, with Karen Bass before?
I've known her a long time.
Yeah.
I like her. I supported her in the Senate, or the State Assembly, I'm sorry, or State Senate. I actually held a fundraiser for her when she ran for Congress. Mayor's a different job.
Right. And I ask you, what is she doing right?
Her heart's in the right place. I know she cares.
Mhm.
She's a decent person.
Right.
And it's painful is the wrong word, but it's maybe a difficult thing for me to say, okay, this is a woman I've known a long time and supported, but the city's adrift. And ultimately, you got to look to leadership. If you want to change in direction, you want something different to happen, culture starts at the top.
Can I straight out ask you what she's doing wrong?
I think you could ask me, but I think you could also just do a little walk and talk on the streets.
No, I'm asking you.
The city's not affordable. Got to do something about that. It's not safe. Got to do something about that. Homelessness ain't getting better. Got to do something about that. Good paying jobs can't be found. Got to do something about that. Broken sidewalks, streets, street lamps. Got to do something about that. And part of what really has emboldened me or empowered me to run is just listening to people that I met through schools or being in the community with Vision Learn. They'll share. And it's not the complaint department sharing. It's
Right.
everybody,
The
because you and I
people.
both know there's always some people who complain about everything,
Yeah, that's what they do.
right? They'll tell you this pizza is just, it's a little too warm and it's fantastic pizza. They'll complain that the chocolate ice cream isn't cold enough or something. It's not that. Every person is struggling in Los Angeles. And I think that's, I would have hoped Mayor Bass would have acknowledged that and said, the struggle's real. Now, what do we do about it? I heard her give a talk not long ago, and she said the city needs a turnaround. And I thought, well, I agree. And then I realized that was what she was running for reelection on. It sounded a little more like a candid self-reflection, which is what we're doing ain't working. And I could even accept that if you say, okay, what are we going to do different then? But you can't, as Mayor Bass, run and say it's working, because I don't think it is. I don't think the voters, the people in the community I talk to think it is. So you got to start with truth. If it's not working, maybe we can fix it. If you tell me it's working and it's not, then it's never going to
Right.
get fixed.
What about the fires? Man, of course, who's ready for a fire? But Los Angeles, we really weren't ready for the devastation that we saw in January. And it's easy to look now and kind of, not point a finger, but say, oh, this was wrong. We didn't have water here. When you saw what was going on, and you were affected by it as well in Palisades,
Right.
when you saw what was going on in Palisades and Altadena, just as an Angelino, as a father, as a human being, what were you thinking when you saw Los Angeles on
Well,
fire?
it's tragic. Let's not just look at the narrow. 12 people died. Thousands lost their homes, their livelihoods, their sense of community. We were part of that. My mother-in-law's house burned down right across the street from the fire station. Our house is a toxic waste dump. I'm not sure we'll get back in, but we'll be okay. We're safe. Our family is accounted for. We're okay. But it was preventable. We know that now. We weren't prepared. We weren't prepared because we had broken infrastructure, broken hydrants, broken fire trucks, a reservoir that shouldn't have been taken out of action in the fire season, all those things. We didn't properly pre-deploy. Normally for a high risk day, which it certainly was, you pre-deploy 50 crews, 4 people each, like 200 people. Because it's like whack-a-mole. Okay, you and I are here. If there's a fire 400 yards that way, by the time we get there, it's out of control. But we got another crew over there, they can get there. Another crew over there, another crew over there. So instead of 50 crews, they pre-deployed 8. There it is. Okay, you could have cut it. You could have cut off the fire and prevented it.
Do we have that manpower? Because
Of course.
because you would look at the news and it was like, oh, this truck is out of service, and I was just wondering, do we have the manpower, or is
The
it
people
easier?
were all on duty. The people were all on duty. It's whether you pre-deploy and whether you make a decision. These are decisions. Decisions have consequences. Someone in the mayor's office decided that they wanted to save $200,000 or $300,000 because you pre-deploy 50 crews. It's not free. People are doing overtime. They're doing extra time. Okay, it costs you that money. Someone said, you know what? It's not worth $200,000 or $300,000 to avoid 12 loss of lives, 5,000, 7,000, thousands of homes burned, livelihoods lost. You go, okay, that was a bad choice. Someone made that choice. They should be held accountable. And we need to know the truth. We're 10 months from the tragedy. We still don't know the truth. Where's the Christopher Commission? Where's a group of independent people holding public hearings, asking tough questions of everybody in City Hall, including the mayor? What'd you know? When did you know it? And what have you learned? What would you do differently the next time? We haven't had one public hearing on the fires. How can that be? People are owed the truth, in part because we don't want it to happen again. But if you don't listen to the truth, you don't start there, then we're just pretending, oh, it got a really windy day, and so let's blame that. No, the fire, the rekindle, there are pictures, the smoke was coming up, not sideways. It was burning before the winds picked up. You pre-deploy 50 crews, you put it out. You pre-deploy 8, you can't get there in time, Katie bar the door, it's over. So ultimately, the fire chief of the city of Los Angeles is the mayor. Fire chief reports to the mayor. The buck stops there. And if we didn't prepare, if we didn't respond in the moment properly, I know where the buck stops, with the mayor.
Can we rebuild Los Angeles? Altadena, Palisades. Like, of course, there was there's just something about the neighborhood that doesn't feel like God willing it to come back. But even when I speak about Altadena, right? People were there for decades or
Oh no, it's a
generations.
generation, it's a
Yeah.
vibe, it's a
And
place.
then, but what
So
happens
when you
now?
destroy a community like Altadena or the
Yeah.
Palisades, you're destroying culture, you're destroying history. I can speak to my own experience in the Palisades. My wife has been in a book club for 20 some odd years. It started as a baby group, and our youngest kid's 22, so it's probably 22 years. Of the 10 women in the book club, 7 of their homes burned down. The rec center, where I taught my kids to play basketball and soccer and baseball, it's gone. The library that we used to take our kids to read in, it's gone. The bookstore, the coffee shop. Same thing in Altadena. That's culture. The multi-generational families who are living in a house, they could only afford to live
Right.
there as a school teacher because they inherited the house from their mother or their grandfather.
It's been there. It's been in the
What's
family.
going to happen in Altadena? What's going to happen in the Palisades? They're going to get richer. We're going to squeeze out the character of the community, right? Because that 1,700 square foot house in Altadena, someone's going to buy the dirt and build a 4,000 square foot house. So now you priced out the people who used to live there. You priced out the young family. It's going to change, sadly, the character and culture of neighborhoods. And we talk about gentrification around Los
Yeah.
Angeles. You know, how do we build anew at the same time protect the culture of Little Tokyo? Okay, we got to strike that balance. And the same challenge is going to hit us square in the face in Altadena, in the Palisades, because the dirt is Los Angeles. The dirt's still worth money, but the family that was making it because they had been there for generations, they're going to have to move on, and that's sad. And so we're going to destroy the character of those neighborhoods.
Now, I'm glad you gave me an honest answer because I've asked that question before, and I felt like the answer that I got, and I asked multiple times, just wasn't the answer that I was looking for.
No,
Because you're
that's
going to see it. You're going to see land going for pennies on a dollar, or somebody can't out. The person that had the home there, they can't buy it.
Yep.
Gentrification will set in.
Yeah.
And it's going to change the climate and just what that felt like.
It's the
in
vibe.
these
It's the
areas.
community.
And even with Palisades, people thought everyone in the Pacific Palisades, oh, they're all rich. Like, no, they're not.
No. I used to coach a kids' baseball team. I coached all my kids when they were little, so they didn't realize I was a pretender, right? Because it was about the snack after practice and play well with your 6-year-olds on your t-ball team or something. On our little t-ball team was a school teacher and a famous actor. Okay? School teacher, I get it. They couldn't come to the after-school practice because they're still at school. The famous actor was, but he was just a dad. Call him by his first name, doesn't mention his first name. At the end of the season, he said, "Thank you." I go, "Why?" He goes, because he would always pick up the balls and the bats and help pull. He goes, "You didn't show me a script. You didn't take a selfie. I was just a dad." I go, "Yeah, you're just a dad here, and the school teacher's just a mom here." And the same thing will be true in Altadena, maybe a little less Hollywood, a little different character in the neighborhood. But when you displace the fabric of a community, any community, and money becomes the coin of the realm. We don't need more Yves Saint Laurent stores in the Palisades. They sure don't need one in Altadena. You need that family-owned coffee shop that's been there for 3 generations. The place you go for breakfast. That's the character of the neighborhood. And in a certain sense, the tragedy of the Palisades, all of us lived through Los Angeles. It's different. For somebody, the tragedy is, okay, I can't make my rent. That Section 8 voucher didn't come through, and that's their crisis of the moment. But as we build anew in Los Angeles, we need to make sure community voices are there because we want to protect and preserve the character of communities. This isn't just a free-for-all and do whatever a developer wants. It's got to work for the community. But if we do nothing, then it's all just about the money. That's not the Los Angeles I want to be part of.
Why are you good for Los Angeles?
Because I can get stuff done and I care. You can make it really, really simple. I don't think we should have anybody who's a mayor of Los Angeles who hasn't demonstrated they care about people. If you don't start there, then what are you doing the job for? You just want a trophy, you want accolades, you want to see your picture in the paper. I don't want any of those things. Vision to Learn, we've helped 600,000 kids. My picture's not on the glasses. Kids and families help. They have no idea who I am. And I'm good with that.
Right, you need your signature on every glass.
I don't got my signature on the glasses. We could have some big glasses. The kids might like those. We got the Dodger glasses. They love those. So we should talk offline, maybe some big boy glasses. But I'm doing it because I care. And I think together I can bring people who want to do the work and make a difference. And that's why you do it. I believe that's what motivates me. I care and I get the job done.
It's a lot on your plate, bro.
Well, think of it as privilege.
Mhm.
Uh, my dad came to this country with his family. I'm sure they weren't thinking that maybe someday their son might be mayor of Los Angeles.
Mhm.
As we're changing schools and my mom is focused on her job and kids reading and making sure down the hall I was behaving, she wouldn't focus on it. I've had such a blessing in my life. Everything I could have ever dreamed has come my way, and including some setbacks. You break your neck mountain biking.
Right.
That helicopter when you're getting medevaced and your blood pressure's dropping, and they're saying get him here fast. Dropping blood pressure. You don't die from a broken neck generally. You die when your blood doesn't get to your brain, and when your blood pressure's dropping, that's a bad sign. You go through that, and you go, okay, what am I here for? If I can make a difference for someone else, that's a blessing.
The trickle down that we're seeing from the Trump administration, the hate for California becomes the hate for Los Angeles. It feels like we're the enemy of the current administration. How much of that would get in the way of Los Angeles?
Uh, let's separate the fight we have to be in
Mhm.
from getting our work done. Okay, the fight we have to be in, we're going to protect, I will protect with every ounce of my being the right of anybody to be in Los Angeles. Documented, undocumented, you're on the journey together. You might have come from Honduras as a child with your family. You're a firefighter now. You might be working on your own little taco stand. You might be a day laborer. You might be a school teacher. You're my neighbor. You're my friend. We're going to protect you. And we're going to stand up to the Trump administration in different ways. Again, it's not podiums in City Hall. It's calling them out. It's letting people know who this is impacting. And it's impacting all of us. It's impacting us when the person building an apartment building, their workforce doesn't show up. Well, no more apartments. It's impacting us when our kids' friends are missing from school. Let's start by calling them out. So right now, there are more people being taken than were taken 3 months ago or 6 months ago. But this isn't invasion of the body snatchers. LAPD and the mayor know that. Every day, you can't just magically walk on the street and grab someone here. Let's start by calling them out every day. Okay. And let's stand true to our values. And people coming into our community, breaking up families, grabbing people off the street, not going to consent anyway.
I'm
Can't
glad
happen.
because that was my next.
Okay.
I was swinging into that. Like
But now the second part, and I can hold two thoughts in my head. Okay. We have a challenge in homelessness and affordability and people not feeling safe and the broken lights on the 6th Street Bridge. I was there with President Biden. I was there with President Trump. And at the pace we're going, is going to be there with the next president. And so we got to also do our own business. And some of that's going to require us to get federal money.
right.
So we got to strike a balance. The first thing is protect our neighbors, protect our safety, fight. At the same time, if we don't do our own business, we lose.
And you said many a times you parents, immigrants, and we look at now what's going on with our immigrants here in Los Angeles. And we were talking about getting snatched off the street. It seemed like there's just all out war
Yep.
when it comes to deportation. What's going on in Los Angeles? People getting snatched, people getting pulled away from it. We don't know where they are. Due process is out the window. Just in Los Angeles, how do we protect our immigrants here?
We got to stand up. We got to call out what is happening that is wrong. And we have to change the terms of the fight.
Are we not doing that now?
No. When we don't bring light, when we don't shed light on what is being done in our community, we allow it to all happen in the dark. Okay. I think our strongest card to play is not just the fight in the courtrooms and wherever else, but it's to call out the fact that neighborhoods are being destroyed, families are being destroyed. Bullies will keep pushing until you push back. Bullies will keep pushing until you change the narrative and say, you know what you're doing is wrong. And this family has been harmed. This is the harm that you, President Trump, have to live with. And I think that's the pressure we have to start to put on the administration. And we're not. Again, a press conference in City Hall with 20 people standing behind you. He probably loves that. He watches it on Fox News and he's had a good day. That's not the fight. The fight's in the street.
Did you feel like 10 years ago LA would be here today?
Uh, no,
Right.
right?
We've seen crime, we've seen the pandemic, we've seen affordability. We've seen LA just change just since 2015 in the last 10
In
years.
the last 10 years. But
What could the next 10 years look like as well?
uh, I'll
But you had a
give
but.
I'll give you the optimist case and the track we're on. Okay, the optimist case. Look at what we did during the pandemic.
Mhm.
We fed everybody. We cared for our neighbors. We cared for our friends.
Mhm.
We kept people safe. What we did in schools in Los Angeles led the nation. Part of the reason Trump wanted to pick on us because okay, you guys are doing good. We got to kind of upset that narrative somehow. Okay. If we don't get back on track and the buildings stay empty downtown, then Hollywood continues to leave, and there are no good paying jobs, and it's too expensive to live here, and it's not safe to live here. We're going to continue to see an exodus of people like we've seen in the last couple, 3 years, and that doesn't end well. I grew up in Michigan in one of my stops. Detroit in the 50s had 2 million people. Got 500,000 people now. And I'm not suggesting we're going to be Detroit. We've got a lot of things Detroit doesn't have, and I can say that because I used to live near there. But it doesn't, Los Angeles doesn't stay special just because we click our heels and say stay special. It stays special because we get in the game and we turn things around.
All right. We're gonna hold you accountable.
All right. Appreciate
All
that.
right, Austin. I thank you for
Thanks,
your time,
Big.
brother.
Yeah,
I
appreciate
appreciate you. Man. Pleasure to
Thanks.
see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.